I pulled into my sister's driveway in Oakville at exactly 6:47 p.m. The party wasn't supposed to start until 7:30, but my daughter Emma had insisted we arrive early. She'd been clutching that white bakery box in her lap for the entire 40-minute drive from our apartment in Mississauga, protective as if it contained something fragile and precious. Which, I suppose, it did. "You sure about this?" I asked her, watching the warm light spill from the windows of Catherine's two-story brick house. Through the glass, I could see catering staff moving around with trays, setting up for what was clearly going to be an elaborate event. Emma nodded, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. At 17, my daughter had inherited her mother's determination and, thankfully, none of my tendency to second-guess everything. "Madison's turning 16, Dad. She's my cousin. I want to be here." What she didn't say, but what we both knew, was that this was the first family event we'd been invited to in almost 2 years. Not since the awkward Christmas dinner where Catherine had made it abundantly clear that my nurse's salary in our rental apartment didn't quite measure up to her standards. My sister had married well. Derek owned a software consulting firm. They had this house in one of Oakville's nicer neighborhoods, and Catherine had developed what I can only describe as a severe allergy to anything that reminded her of our middle-class upbringing in Hamilton. But Emma had been persistent. She'd gotten Madison's number somehow, and the two of them had been texting. When the invitation came, delivered via a generic email blast that Catherine's assistant had clearly sent to the entire family list, Emma had lit up in a way I hadn't seen since her mother died 3 years ago. "All right," I said, turning off the engine. "But we're not staying if, Dad." She gave me that look, the one that said I was being overprotective again. "It'll be fine." The box she carried contained a custom cake from Sweet Celebrations, a small bakery near our apartment. Emma had spent 2 weeks' worth of her paycheck on it. She'd been working at Pizza Nova since September, weekend shifts, and a couple of evenings after school. The money was supposed to go toward university next year, books and residence deposits. But when I'd tried to talk her out of buying an expensive gift, she'd been adamant. "Madison mentioned she loves lemon poppy seed," Emma had said. "The bakery makes them from scratch. It's going to mean something, Dad. Not like just buying whatever." Looking at my daughter's face as we walked up to Catherine's front door, I understood. This wasn't about the cake. It was about Emma trying to build bridges that I'd maybe let collapse. About her wanting family, wanting to belong somewhere beyond just the two of us in our small 2-bedroom apartment. I rang the doorbell. Through the frosted glass panel, I could see someone approaching. The door swung open, and there was Catherine, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread. Cream-colored silk blouse, tailored black pants, hair professionally styled. She had a wine glass in one hand and surprise on her face. "James, you're early. Not hello. Not good to see you. Just a statement of fact delivered with a slight edge of displeasure." "Emma wanted to help set up if you needed it," I offered. "We can wait in the car, if—" No, come in." Catherine stepped aside, but her expression suggested this was more obligation than welcome. "We're still preparing. The guests won't arrive for another 40 minutes. We followed her inside. The house was exactly as I remembered from my one previous visit, all hardwood floors and designer furniture, and the kind of pristine whiteness that screamed no one actually lives here. A woman in a black uniform, clearly part of the catering staff, hurried past with champagne flutes. Emma held out the bakery box. "I brought this for Madison. It's a cake. Lemon poppy seed." I remembered she mentioned it once. Catherine's eyes flicked to the box, then to Emma, then to me. Something shifted in her expression. "That's thoughtful, but we already have a cake." Derek ordered a custom design from that French patisserie in Yorkville. 3 tiers, cost over $600. The number hung in the air between us. I felt Emma's grip tighten on the box. "This is just something extra," Emma said quietly. "Something personal. I made sure they used organic ingredients, and—" "Emma, sweetie." Catherine's voice had taken on that particular tone, the one she probably used with subordinates at the charity board meetings she was always posting about on Facebook. "It's very sweet, but we simply don't have room on the dessert table. Everything's been precisely arranged by the caterer. You understand." I saw my daughter's face fall, watched her carefully constructed hope crumble, and something in me shifted. "We can take it home," I started to say, but Catherine was already gesturing toward the kitchen. "Actually, if you want to help, Emma, The caterer could use an extra pair of hands. They're short-staffed tonight. You could help with dishes, maybe plating some of the appetizers. Would you mind? It would actually be quite helpful. I stared at my sister. You want Emma to work at her cousin's birthday party? I'm offering her a way to contribute, Catherine said smoothly. Unless you think she's too good for, I'll help. Emma's voice was small. She set the bakery box on the entrance hall table and started toward the kitchen before I could stop her. Emma, wait. It's fine, Dad. But her eyes were bright with tears she was fighting to hold back. I don't mind, Catherine smiled. Wonderful. The kitchen's just through there. Ask for Monica. She's the head caterer. I watched my daughter disappear around the corner, shoulders hunched in that way that meant she was trying to hold herself together. Then I turned to my sister. What the hell was that? Don't start, James. Catherine sipped her wine. She offered to help. I'm letting her help. What's the problem? The problem is you just rejected her gift and turned your niece into free labor for your party. Oh, please. She's 17. She works at a pizza place. I'm sure she's capable of handling some dishes. Catherine's eyes narrowed. Unless you're worried she might embarrass us? I noticed she came straight from work. Is that a uniform smell? Because Derek's colleagues are coming tonight. And I didn't hear the rest. I was already moving toward the kitchen. The dining room was to my left, visible through a wide archway. The table was set for at least 30 people, fine china and crystal glasses catching the light from an elaborate chandelier. Beyond that, through the pass-through window, I could see into the kitchen. Emma was standing at the sink. The caterer, a harried-looking woman in her 40s, was gesturing at a stack of serving platters. Emma was nodding, had already rolled up her sleeves. As I watched, she reached for a platter, and it slipped, the edge catching her palm as it clattered into the sink. She gasped, pulled her hand back. Blood welled from a cut across her palm. I was through the dining room and into the kitchen in seconds. Emma? She turned, cradling her hand, tears now streaming down her face. Not from pain, from everything. From humiliation and disappointment and the crushing weight of trying so hard to matter to people who'd already decided she didn't. I'm okay, she whispered. It's just a cut. I'll clean it up and... No. I grabbed a clean kitchen towel and wrapped it around her hand. You're done. We're leaving. James? Catherine had followed me, Derek appearing behind her. My brother-in-law looked confused, like he'd just walked into the middle of a movie without knowing the plot. What's going on? I guided Emma out of the kitchen, into the dining room. The front door seemed miles away, but between us and it stood Catherine, Derek, and now several catering staff, who'd paused to watch the drama unfold. My daughter, I said, my voice shaking with an anger I could barely control, spent 2 weeks' worth of paycheck on a cake for your daughter. She worked weekend shifts at a pizza place, standing on her feet for 8 hours at a time, dealing with rude customers and coming home smelling like pepperoni and cheese. She did that to earn money for university, but she spent it on Madison because she wanted to be part of this family. Because she's 17 years old, and she lost her mother 3 years ago, and she thought maybe, just maybe, her aunt might give a damn. Catherine's face had gone pale. James, you're being dramatic. She brought that cake here as a gift, and you rejected it, told her it wasn't good enough for your dessert table. Then you put her to work in the kitchen like she was part of the help you hired. And now she's bleeding because she was trying to make you happy. Derek stepped forward. Look, mate, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. I was looking at Catherine now, and I could feel every year of accumulated resentment rising to the surface. You know what your $600 cake represents? Money. Just money. You paid someone to make something beautiful because you could afford to, because you wanted to show off to Derek's colleagues and your charity board friends and everyone else you're trying to impress. You know what Emma's cake represents? Sacrifice. 40 hours of work, sore feet, and late nights, and choosing to give instead of save. That cake is worth more than anything on your dessert table because it cost her something real. I grabbed the white bakery box from the entrance table where Emma had left it, walked back into the dining room. The caterer's elaborate setup was on a side table by the window, the dessert display arranged like an art installation. And in the center, on a crystal pedestal, sat the birthday cake. 3 tiers of fondant perfection, delicate sugar flowers cascading down the sides, Madison 16 written in gold leaf. I looked at Catherine. You want to know the difference between us? I would never, ever make my daughter feel like she wasn't enough. But you just did that to yours. What are you talking about? Catherine's voice had risen an octave. Madison texted Emma 2 weeks ago, told her how stressed she was about this party, how you'd planned everything without asking what she wanted, how she didn't even like that cake flavor, but you'd ordered it anyway, because it photographed well, how she wished it could just be family instead of a business networking event disguised as a birthday party. I saw it hit home, saw Catherine's certainty waver. Madison wanted lemon poppy seed, I continued. Emma remembered because she actually listened. She actually cared about what would make her cousin happy, not what would look good on Instagram. I lifted the $600 cake off its crystal pedestal. It was heavier than I expected, the fondant hard under my fingers. Through the archway, I could see Emma watching me, eyes wide, one hand still wrapped in the bloody towel. Dad, don't. I walked to the kitchen and dropped the cake into the garbage bin. The satisfying thud of expensive fondant hitting the bottom of a trash can is something I'll remember for the rest of my life. The silence that followed was profound. Catherine found her voice first. That was $600. Send me the bill, I said. I'll pay you back. Might take me 6 months, but I'll pay it. Consider it the cost of a lesson in basic human decency. I took Emma's cake out of the white box and placed it on the crystal pedestal, the one that had held Catherine's rejected masterpiece. It was smaller, simpler, white frosting with fresh lemon zest, and a scattering of real poppy seeds, a few edible flowers on top. At the top, in delicate script, Happy Sweet 16 Madison. This, I said to no one in particular, is a cake made with love. From someone who actually thought about what the birthday girl wanted. Derek was staring at the garbage bin, mouth open. Catherine looked like she was calculating whether to call the police or just have a breakdown. The catering staff were trying very hard to pretend they were invisible. The front door opened. Madison walked in, home early from wherever she'd been, car keys in hand. She took in the scene, her parents frozen in shock, me standing by the dessert table, Emma by the kitchen doorway, with a bloody towel wrapped around her hand, and a cake that wasn't the one her mother had ordered sitting on display. What happened? She asked. Emma held up the cake knife. Happy birthday, Madison. I got you lemon poppy seed. My niece looked at the cake, then at Emma, then at her mother. You got me lemon poppy seed? You said you liked it, Emma said softly. In your text last month, something shifted in Madison's expression. She walked past her parents, past me, straight to Emma. You remembered that? Of course I remembered. Madison looked at her mother. She remembered. You didn't even ask what flavor I wanted. You just ordered what the caterer recommended because it looked elegant. Madison, sweetheart, how did Emma hurt her hand? The question hung in the air. Catherine didn't answer. Derek looked at his shoes. Mom made her do dishes, I said quietly. Rejected her gift and put her to work in the kitchen. Madison's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, understanding, anger. She turned to Catherine. You made my cousin do dishes at my birthday party? After she brought me a cake? It wasn't like that, Catherine started, but there was no conviction in her voice. It was exactly like that, I said. I took Emma's uninjured hand. We're leaving. Happy birthday, Madison. I'm sorry we couldn't stay. Wait. Madison was looking at Emma's wrapped hand. Let me at least get you a proper bandage, and I want a piece of that cake before you go. Madison, we have guests arriving in 30 minutes, Catherine protested. Then I guess they'll see me eating cake with my cousin. Madison's voice had steel in it, a tone I'd never heard from her before. The cousin who actually cared enough to remember what I like. In the kitchen, Madison cleaned Emma's cut properly, applied antibacterial ointment, wrapped it in a real bandage from the first aid kit. She cut 2 pieces of the lemon poppy seed cake, and the 3 of us sat at the kitchen island eating while Catherine and Derek stood in the dining room, frozen in their own awkwardness. This is really good, Madison said around a mouthful. Way better than Mom's fancy one. You haven't tried your mom's, Emma pointed out. Don't need to. It's in the garbage. Madison grinned at me. That was kind of amazing, Uncle James. Totally dramatic, but amazing. Probably not my finest moment, I admitted. No, it was perfect. Madison licked frosting off her fork. Someone needed to tell Mom she's been acting like she's too good for everyone. Dad won't do it. Grandma tries, but Mom doesn't listen. But you throwing out a $600 cake? That she'll remember. Through the doorway, I could see Catherine on her phone, probably calling the patisserie to see if they could deliver another cake in 30 minutes. Derek had poured himself a scotch from the bar cart and was drinking it like medicine. I should probably pay for that cake, I said. Don't you dare, Madison said. Let Mom sit with it. Let her think about why her brother felt he had to throw it away to defend his daughter. Emma was quiet, picking at her piece of cake. I just wanted to do something nice. You did. Madison squeezed her hand. You did the nicest thing anyone's done for me in a long time. You actually listened to what I wanted. You spent money you didn't have to spare. You came early to help. That's more than most of these people Mom invited will do. They'll show up, eat the fancy food, post photos on social media, and leave. But you tried to make me feel special. You are special, Emma said. So are you. Madison looked at her mother, still on the phone in the next room, voice tight with stress. I think I'm going to cancel this party. Tell everyone I'm sick or something. Would you guys want to go get pizza instead? Just the three of us? You can't cancel your own birthday party, I said. Watch me. Madison was already texting, fingers flying across her phone screen. Emma works at Pizza Nova, right? You get a discount? Emma laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from her all evening. Yeah, I get a discount. Perfect. I'll tell my friends to meet us there. The real friends, not Mom's business contacts, kids, who I barely know. Madison looked up from her phone. Is that okay? Can we just not do this? She gestured at the elaborate setup, the catering staff, the evidence of thousands of dollars spent on impressing people. I thought about Catherine's face when we walked out, the message it would send, the bridge it might burn permanently. Then I looked at Emma's bandaged hand and Madison's hopeful expression. Yeah, I said. We cannot do this. We left through the front door 20 minutes later. The catering staff were still setting up, Catherine was still on the phone, and Derek had moved on to his second scotch. Madison grabbed her coat and followed us out. In the driveway, Catherine finally emerged. Madison, you can't just leave. Watch me, Mom. Madison's voice was calm but firm. You wanted to throw me a party I didn't ask for, with people I don't care about, eating food I didn't choose. Uncle James and Emma brought me what I actually wanted, so I'm going with them. We'll discuss this later, Catherine said, but there was no force behind it. Yeah, Madison agreed. We probably should. Maybe discuss why you treat people differently based on how much money they have. Maybe discuss why you made Emma do dishes. Maybe discuss why a 17-year-old working at a pizza place understood what I wanted better than my own mother did. We drove to Pizza Nova. The three of us crammed into my Honda Civic. Emma called ahead, and her manager, a good-natured guy named Raj, said he'd save us a table and throw in some garlic bread. By the time we arrived, 6 of Madison's actual friends had shown up, summoned by her texts. We ate pizza. We sang happy birthday over a slice with a candle stuck in it. Madison laughed more in 2 hours than I'd seen her laugh in years. Emma looked happy, relaxed, the tension finally gone from her shoulders. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Catherine wants to apologize. Can we talk? I showed it to Emma. She shrugged. Up to you, Dad. What do you think? I asked Madison. My niece considered it. I think Mom needs to sit with this for a while. Like, really sit with it. She's probably embarrassed right now. That's good. She should be. But if she apologizes too quickly, it won't stick. She'll go back to being the same person. When did you get so wise? I asked. When I spent the last 2 years watching Mom turn into someone I don't recognize. Madison wiped pizza sauce off her fingers. She wasn't always like this. When Dad's business started doing really well, something changed. She started caring more about what other people thought than what was actually important. I looked at the text again, then typed back, "Not tonight. Give her some time to think. We'll talk next week." 3 days later, I got a call from Catherine. Not a text, an actual phone call, which was significant because Catherine preferred communication she could edit and control. "James, can we meet for coffee?" We met at a Tim Hortons halfway between Oakville and Mississauga, neutral territory. Catherine looked tired, like she hadn't slept well. She ordered a black coffee and sat across from me in the booth. "Derek and I had a long talk," she said without preamble. "Well, several long talks. Madison won't speak to me beyond basic necessities. She's been staying at her friend's house the last 2 nights. I'm sorry to hear that." No, you're not. Catherine smiled, but it was sad. You're probably thinking I deserve it. Little bit, I admitted. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. I've been thinking about what you said, about the difference between us, about making our daughters feel not enough. Catherine, let me finish. She took a breath. You were right. I've been so focused on building this image, this version of who I think I should be, that I forgot who I actually am, or was. I forgot that we grew up in a townhouse in Hamilton, that Dad worked 2 jobs to put us through school, that Mom clipped coupons and we thought Red Lobster was fancy dining. That wasn't a bad childhood, I said. I know. But somewhere along the way, I started being ashamed of it. Like it wasn't enough. Like I wasn't enough unless I had the big house and the designer clothes and the expensive parties. She looked down at her coffee. I treated Emma terribly. I treated you terribly. I've been treating Madison terribly for 2 years, making her be part of this performance instead of just letting her be a kid. I didn't know what to say to that. I called Emma yesterday, Catherine continued. She didn't answer. I left a voicemail. Probably a terrible one. I'm not good at apologies. Keep trying, I said. She'll come around, eventually. Why? Catherine looked up at me. Why should she? I rejected her gift. I made her work at a party she was invited to as a guest. I implied she wasn't good enough for my house because she smelled like the pizza place where she works to earn money for university. Her voice cracked. What kind of person does that? A person who lost their way, I said carefully, but who can find it again if they try? We sat in silence for a while. The Tim Hortons around us was busy with the morning rush, people grabbing coffee before work. Regular people, our people. If Catherine could remember that. The party was a disaster, she said finally. Well, not a disaster. It went off fine. The guests came, ate the replacement cake I had rushed over, took their photos. But it felt hollow. Derek's colleagues all thought Madison was sick. We had to make excuses. And the whole time I kept thinking about her sitting in a Pizza Nova somewhere, laughing with her actual friends and your daughter, eating cheap pizza and being happier than she would have been at my $6,000 party. $7,000 after the replacement cake, I pointed out. She almost smiled. You're going to make me pay for that forever, aren't you? Depends. Are you actually sorry, or just sorry you got called out? Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Both, probably. Is that honest enough? It's a start. She pulled something out of her purse. An envelope. Slid it across the table to me. That's a check for $600. For the cake you threw away, Catherine. I said I'd pay for it. I don't want your money, James. I want you to give it to Emma, for her university fund, as an apology, and because she deserves it more than I deserve to keep it. I looked at the envelope but didn't touch it. She doesn't need your money. I know she doesn't need it. But I'm asking you to let me give it anyway. Please. I need to do something that isn't completely self-serving. I took the envelope. I'll give it to her. But you should still apologize yourself. In person. When she's ready to hear it. I will. Catherine finished her coffee. Derek and I are going to therapy. Couples therapy. He pointed out that we've been so focused on building wealth that we forgot to build a life. That Madison can't stand being around us. That I've alienated my only brother and my niece over. What? Wanting to seem successful? You are successful, I said. You just forgot that success isn't supposed to come at the cost of who you are. She nodded slowly. Will you tell Emma I'm sorry, really sorry, and that her cake was beautiful, and Madison loved it, and I was an idiot? I'll tell her. Catherine stood to leave, then paused. James, thank you for throwing out that cake, for making a scene, for showing Madison that someone in this family still has their priorities straight. I know it probably felt dramatic in the moment, but you did the right thing. After she left, I sat there for a while, thinking about paths taken and not taken, about how easy it is to lose yourself in pursuit of something that looks like success but feels empty, about the difference between worth and value. I went home and gave Emma the envelope. She stared at it for a long time. Aunt Catherine sent this? She did. An apology and a contribution to your university fund. Emma opened the envelope, looked at the check, then folded it carefully and put it in her desk drawer. I'll cash it tomorrow, and I'll text her thank you. But I'm not ready to see her yet. That's fair. Dad? Emma turned to look at me. What you did that night, throwing out the cake, standing up for me, that was, That was everything. I probably could have handled it with more maturity, I admitted. No, Emma shook her head. You handled it exactly right. You showed me that I matter more than keeping peace, that my feelings are worth defending even if it makes things awkward. That's what I'll remember. Not the cake or the party or any of it. Just that when it mattered, you chose me. I hugged my daughter, this incredible young woman who worked hard and loved generously and deserved better than what she'd gotten that night. I'll always choose you, Em. Every single time. Madison came by the next week, bearing news. Her mother had canceled her upcoming cotillion registration and donated the money to a youth employment charity instead. Derek had stepped back from 2 boards to spend more time at home, and they'd offered to pay for Emma and Madison to take a trip to Montreal together during March break. Mom's still kind of weird about everything, Madison admitted, but she's trying. She actually asked me what I wanted for dinner last night instead of just having the chef make something. Progress, I said. Small steps, Madison grinned. But hey, at least now I know if she backslides, Uncle James will show up and throw things in the garbage. The story spread through our family quickly. My mother called, torn between horror at my behavior and pride that I'd stood up for Emma. My cousins texted their support. One aunt sent a message that just said, "About time someone called Catherine out." What I learned that night, and what I try to remember, is that standing up for what's right doesn't always look dignified. Sometimes it looks like throwing a $600 cake in the garbage. Sometimes it looks like walking out of a party you were invited to. Sometimes it looks like choosing your child's dignity over family peace. Because at the end of the day, our children are watching. They're learning from us what they're worth, what they deserve, how they should expect to be treated. And if we don't show them that their value isn't determined by their job or their income, or whether they smell like coffee or pizza, or whatever honest work they do, then who will? Emma's working at Pizza Nova, still, saving for university. She's applied to nursing programs, wants to follow in my footsteps. Madison visits sometimes on Emma's shifts, orders pizza, leaves big tips from her allowance. The 2 of them have gotten close, bonded over shared experiences of family complexity. Catherine and I have coffee once a month now. We're rebuilding something. It's not what we had before, because we can't go back to pretending everything's fine. But it's honest. She tells me about therapy, about the hard conversations she's having with Derek and Madison, about trying to figure out who she wants to be instead of who she thinks she should be. And sometimes, when she's struggling, I remind her of the cake. Not to be cruel, but to remind her of the moment she chose image over substance and how empty it felt. How her daughter preferred pizza with real friends over a $6,000 party with strangers. How Emma's 40 hours of work meant more than any amount of money could buy. There's a lesson in that white bakery box, the one Emma brought with such hope. A lesson about value and worth, about what matters and what doesn't, about the difference between the cost of something and what it's worth. And there's a lesson in what happened to the $600 cake, sitting now in a landfill somewhere. A reminder that things we build to impress others, things we create from insecurity instead of love, things we value for their price tag instead of their meaning, all those things are garbage. Expensive garbage, maybe, but garbage nonetheless. The things that last, the things that matter, those are built from sacrifice and love and genuine care for what others need instead of what we need others to think of us. Those things can't be bought. They can only be earned. And my daughter, standing at that pizza counter in her uniform, earning minimum wage to build a future for herself, she understood that better at 17 than some people twice her age. That's the story I tell when people ask why I threw out my sister's cake. Not because I was angry, though I was. Not because I wanted to make a scene, though I did. But because sometimes the most important thing we can teach our children is that they are worth defending, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs us something, even when it means throwing expensive things in the garbage and walking away from family events and burning bridges we thought we needed. Because the bridge between me and my daughter, the trust she has that I'll stand up for her when it matters, that bridge is worth more than all the networking connections and social climbing and expensive parties in the world. And I'd burn every other bridge I have to keep it standing. That's what Emma's cake taught me. That's what Catherine's cake cost her to learn. And that's what Madison discovered on her 16th birthday, sitting in a Pizza Nova booth with people who loved her, not because of what she had or who her parents were, but simply because she was her. In the end, the best gifts are never the ones that cost the most. They're the ones that cost us something real.